And going live. I have now hit record.
Oop, I also hit the recording button.
All right. I see little
We still
wabbies
have a
moving.
main bit, though.
First time I've turned off my computer in a long time. The last week. Thankfully it booted. I find the thing that's the least stable with Windows, like real computers these days, even if everything else is working fine, is a lot of computers sometimes just going to sleep or actually shutting down. They seem to just get stuck.
The sleeping and Windows is definitely an issue.
Yep. I just say
my HD PC, if I put it to sleep, right, the power light blinks, it goes to sleep, and then after like 10 seconds, it just completely shuts off, even though it was sleeping for like 10 seconds. So if I push like spacebar during those 10 seconds, it'll wake back up properly as if it was sleeping. But as soon as the light turns off, it's off. So I don't know what's up with that. And then my regular computer seems to sleep okay, but I had trouble if it went to sleep on its own, based on like if it turned the displays off based on timing on its own, it wouldn't turn them back on sometimes. So
yep, that was the exact problem I was running into, where the computer was still running, but there was no way to get it to start sending display data again without just hard powering it off.
If it used a timer to turn off the displays, it wouldn't turn them back on. So, but sleeping and everything else works just fine. I disabled the display timer.
Yep. I got it to the point now.
The work laptop seems okay, but sometimes it'll just wake the fuck up.
Yep. Usually that's
staying asleep.
Usually that's a USB device that sent a wake up signal of some kind.
It's not connected to any USB device.
None at all?
No.
Are there stray wake on LAN packets on your local network?
I don't think so. But also it has issues with the lid closing. Like sometimes I'll open the lid and it's on, even though it was off. It's like I'll go to sleep, I'll close the lid, and then when I open the lid, it's on. It's like,
yeah. All right.
When I open the lid, I expect to see it sleeping, and then I expect it to start waking up, right? But instead, I open the lid, and it's already on. It's like, clearly you were not sleeping with the lid closed.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to start.
There's no way you unsleeped that fast.
It's Monday, August 23rd, 2021. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is GeekNights. Tonight we're talking about Apple, CSAM, and privacy. You know, one of the biggest stories in the last few weeks.
We could actually done the main bit on computer sleeping.
Ooh. We'll save that for another one. Because I already set all this up.
Write it down.
I will write it down. All right. So we went down to a private beach house with some friends to get away for a week, and then we didn't have to race. Like, it was easy to get home before the hurricane, but that tropical storm escalated pretty quickly and actually hit New York, and there was some, I say fun flooding, because the flooding in New York was not like super bad in the end. We actually got pretty lucky, and the storm petered out and hit other places worse.
It was just a whole bunch of rain.
Yep. It was enough rain, though, to where I thought, you know what would be cool? Like what I've done in the past, I'll go out for a run during the tropical storm or the hurricane. Like, it won't be that bad.
Sounds like a bad idea, but okay.
I mean, unless the wind's super bad, like, that's fine. If it's warm, like, what? I'm wet. Who cares? Yeah. But
it's not as bad of an idea as the people who go like surfing when the hurricane's coming, right?
But that is the best surfing.
Yeah, but it's also the deadliest.
Yeah, you do taking your life in your own hands in that case. Like the one time.
It's always in your own hands.
Sometimes it's in someone else's hands.
Sure, but it's still in your own hands even when it's in someone else's hands.
But so we get home, and I think, maybe I'll go run. And I go out on the balcony, and it is raining hard enough to where even I am like, yeah, I'm just not going to go outside at all.
Yeah,
this is not going to work out.
No surprise.
I've biked home in similar rain, but that's different from doing like an hour-long run. So, yeah, we missed a week of shows because I was out of town. We came back for a brief one-show week, and we went out of town again. We're finally back, and we're pretty much on a regular schedule for the foreseeable future. And, of course, a ton of, honestly, really important big deal tech news happened the one time we're not around to talk about it.
It happened, I think, before we left. We just didn't have a Monday show between then and...
Exactly. Between the last Monday show we did and now, on 3 major stories happened, and I'm not allowed to call for a tech news roundup. I can't.
I'm sure more major stories than that happened. But
Oh yeah, a bunch happened, but these three were the biggest.
three that we got something to say.
Yep. So instead of doing a normal main bit, well, basically the news we have the most to say about became the main bit. We'll see how that goes. So first things first, we'll dive right into it. OnlyFans basically pulled a Tumblr.
Right. So OnlyFans, I'm sure you know what this website is, but just in case you didn't, it's a social network type site where you pay to follow someone, and most of the people that you're going to be paying to follow are porn stars or sex workers, and that, you know, it was a site that a lot of people used. There's a lot of competition for it now that I've seen some people using, but yeah, it's a thing. It was a thing, and it's soon gonna not be a thing.
Yep. And effectively, with a bunch of caveats and a lot more complexity than we really want to get into, they're banning pornographic content, the likes of which the most people who use OnlyFans use it for. That is what they seek out. That is why that platform grew. That's why it was there. That was the primary reason people used it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of jokes on Twitter that were the equivalent of like, oh, in the news today, Orchard stopped selling apples. It's like,
Yep. What's interesting is OnlyFans acted like they
stopped selling burgers.
The company acted like they were surprised that this announcement was met with people just dropping their platform. Like they seemed surprised at the huge amount of vitriol, anger, and basically the fact that their business is done now. Like they were just destroyed. But
yeah, so I mean, it's really surprised me in that usually the pattern of a Silicon Valley business is to start out completely ignoring laws, regulations, rules of any kind, right? The way, you know, you see Uber continuing to do. Uber trying to change the rules, in fact. They went far above and beyond. That's another news. Their rule change was ruled unconstitutional in the California court, but usually you see a Crunchyroll style pattern, right? It's like start out with just a pirate anime website and then become a legitimate anime website. And then eventually they're bought into Funimation/Sony, and it doesn't matter anymore that they were once committing crimes, right? So,
yep.
And many Silicon Valley businesses operate this way. Just, you know, they start off that, you know, you can't afford if you try to start any business, even a small, normal little business, like say a restaurant, and you try to follow every single fucking rule, right out of the gate from day one, you know, paying every tax, getting every inspection, you know, everything, the costs to start the business will just ruin the business.
Yep. Pretty much every convention you've ever been to started running like directly illegally.
Yeah.
Every convention, even PAX.
I can think of very few businesses that start just doing everything completely by the book, 100% kosher, and succeeding and going far. It just doesn't happen that often, right? So, but in Silicon Valley, it's to a greater extreme of the illegalness, right? Just blatant disregard for all laws to get your business off the ground. Just straight capitalist extortion, exploitation, not extortion, and then whatnot. So that's what OnlyFans did. Just, you know, ignoring all the porn laws, right? They couldn't afford to actually verify every single person. Imagine if every single person who went to OnlyFans and said, new account, right? Point my webcam at myself, get naked, make money, right? That's like a 10-minute process, or at least it was. You know, very quick process. If OnlyFans actually verified and checked on every single person who was either a customer or a service provider on their site, the cost and time required to do that would have been impossible to surmount. They just go under.
Yep. And what's interesting is that it appears Pornhub had a similar problem. You might remember last year where their payment processor went after them, but they actually changed their policies to comply with the payment processor rules. And if you're unaware, Pornhub is still around and doing fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess they're doing, I don't know how well they're doing, but they removed a lot of the porn on their site. They basically don't let people just upload, you know, look at something like YouTube, right? And, you know, Pornhub's doing a
better job moderating its content than YouTube is.
Well, I mean, Pornhub, but used to just allow people to upload whatever the hell
Yep.
porn, basically.
So what Pornhub did,
Now, it's like, yeah, no, almost no one can upload anything.
so what
porn now.
Pornhub did to comply with those rules was pretty simple. They only allow like verify ID users to post videos, and no one can download videos directly from the site. Like obviously there's analog hole and everything, analog hole for the analog hole, but you can't actually download the videos. And there's a couple other minor changes they made around moderation, and that seemed to get them around the new rules. It's unclear to me why. I mean, there's so many things going on in this story, but if we just focus on OnlyFans, what I don't understand is if OnlyFans has such a user base and is so big, why could they not, now that they're established, do what Pornhub did?
I don't know. You'd think that would just be the common sense thing to do.
Because the narrative of why this happened, someone who knows more about this than us could probably do an entire like YouTube series just on this space. But essentially, there is a long history of politicians, conservative interests, and a variety of industries, not just banking, generally just trying to keep porn out of the public discourse. And the legacy of that and the damage of that, not just porn, but also sex work, is clearly a factor here. That legacy continues. There are very conservative forces in these spaces. But there's a bunch of other factors at play. For example, pornographic content is one of the primary causes of chargebacks, charge disputes, lawsuits, escrow problems, extortion, money laundering, like all the things that even if you are the kind of payment processor or bank who literally doesn't care about the content and all you care about is handling transactions for a fee, it costs so much money to deal with that kind of nonsense that even if you think porn is fine, as a business, you're probably better off not allowing it so you don't have to deal with that space and all the problems that come up within it.
Yeah. Well, I think also it's that, we see by designating pornography, even, legal consenting adult pornography
Yep.
as sort of like this special thing, right?
Yep.
It's you have to go to a sex shop. It's not just, you want to get a pornographic book. It's not at, Barnes and Noble. Borders doesn't exist anymore, right? You get it at a special shop.
I remember going to a Walden Books to buy a Danielle
toy?
Steele book for a pseudo girlfriend I had in like 6th grade because she was really into Danielle Steele, and I went to buy it, and the Walden Books wouldn't sell it to me because I was a 6th grader, and they deemed it pornographic.
Right, but that wasn't pornographic. But the point...
It was according to Walden Books.
Whatever. But you can't buy a sex toy at Walmart, for example. They don't sell dildos.
Unless you're brave.
Sure. It depends what you want to use. But you can't buy, it's like they just don't have those there. And if that wasn't the case, right, if you just had porn as an accepted societal thing, then porn would just be mixed in with other stuff. You would, right? Then it's like a payment processor isn't going to cut off Walmart because there's a porn section at the Walmart. But it's when there's an entire business and it's like the entire business is porn only, then it's very easy for the payment processor to cut it off.
Yep. So I suspect in this case, and again, we have no insider knowledge, what OnlyFans was attempting to do, this is just my personal guess, is they started with porn. They ran into the problems I just described, and eventually their payment processor was like, look, buddies, enough is enough. Even Pornhub follows these rules. And rather than continue to double down on trying to be in that space, they tried to pivot to all the other kinds of things such a platform could do, like fitness instructors and tutoring and all that other stuff, and just back away from the whole space. Of course, this led to a lot of backlash, but also I don't know how much money there is in the rest of that compared to in the pornographic part.
Thing if you put that up as your front and everybody knows wink wink.
But no, porn was the front, and then the facade fell down, and it's fitness instructors behind that facade now.
Right, that's the wrong way to do it. But I mean, there is clearly, I think it is a good core idea to have some sort of site where people upload content and then people pay to access that content. It's called Patreon. It exists.
Patreon similarly had to deal with a lot of these issues back in 2017 and did successfully navigate it. But as you note, even to this day, there's many of you who listen to Geek Nights are probably aware of a lot of pornography on Patreon, but it's not easy to search for that Patreon pornography via Patreon for a reason.
Yeah. Twitter is supposedly going to try to do their super follow, which is effectively the same thing, which is like, yeah, if you pay to follow me, you'll see more tweets that only people who pay to follow me see. And Twitter does have a lot of porn on it. Twitter is mostly okay with, as long as, it's within certain lines. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep. So I found an article on XBiz that seems to outline
Facebook. Speaking of which, right, a lot of people correctly pointed out, Facebook basically has more child porn and other garbage on it than like any of these other platforms.
With the possible exception when we get to the main bit that Apple might have had more, at least for a while.
But the point is, nobody's, the payment processors weren't cutting off Facebook, right, payments for ads and such.
Yep. Well, for ads, but there were, I get the impression there were things that happened behind the scenes in these other websites as well. What I did learn, MasterCard, I actually found the rules, they're listed on this website I'll link to, that are at stake here for the MasterCard part of the payment processing lifecycle that are affecting OnlyFans. So it's not that many bullet points. It's pretty straightforward. One section, this is the section that applies to what they call tube sites. So Pornhub, Xvideo, OnlyFans, anything that's live. Yeah, anything that's live streams or direct interaction, stuff like that. One, you must enter a written contractual agreement with any individual contributing content. That includes their consent, their identity, and their age. That seems reasonable. All persons depicted in the content must in themselves give independent verifiable consent for the content to be distributed and downloaded.
Yep,
Age and
if I sign an agreement and get an account and suddenly I invite someone over to be in a video, it's like, whoa, we got to know who that is.
Yep. Never mind, a big part of the problem in this space is non-consensual pornography, where someone surreptitiously films, say, an encounter with a one-night stand, and then that is the porn they publish. That is a huge growing problem.
Revenge porns, all kinds of stuff.
Only verified users can upload content. The big one, I think, is all content must be reviewed prior to publication or real time if it's live streamed. And no content can violate the MasterCard brand BRAM policies. I'll get to that in a minute. I dug into what that is a little more. Business risk assessment and mitigation policies, which is mostly around MasterCard saying, these are the things that you cannot let happen with your payments because they are literally illegal. The website must have a complaint process for reporting and removing material. They must have policies to make sure the website cannot be used for human trafficking effectively. They must provide monthly reports of flagged content and what was taken down. And no search terms or marketing partners or anything in their ecosystem can give the illusion that child porn is there. They can't hint at child porn.
If someone searches for child porn, it's got to say 0 results. Sorry, bro.
And that
if someone searches for hot teens, it's got to be like, no.
So as best I can tell, with the caveat that this is like a couple days of research, those are the rules that OnlyFans is unwilling or unable to comply with.
Well, then that's it.
I think the real-time moderation one might be the hardest one for them, which will
it's definitely the most expensive because you need to pay people to sit there and watch shit all day, and that's not a good job.
So what are those BRAM policies on MasterCard? Well, that's a lot more complicated, but it seems to come into having controls to prevent directly, explicitly illegal activity from being paid for. Like if I buy a hitman or illegal drugs or illegal tobacco, coerced transactions, which is a euphemism for blackmail or literally just going up to an ATM and forcing someone to buy something or take money
Bribes.
out. Yeah, child trafficking. Cryptocurrencies are covered by that. Buying and selling cryptocurrencies is heavily restricted by MasterCard, similarly for all the reasons you can expect. Illegal gambling. And there's a slightly more nebulous class of what they call offensive adult pornography. But as far as I can tell, it mostly applies to explicitly illegal pornography or pornography that doesn't comply with those other rules that we were talking about.
Yeah, they're not talking about, just somebody's, freaky kink or, right? They're talking about, really stuff that, is shouldn't be.
So this is a really complicated space. And it's too much of a simplification to say that MasterCard is directly anti-porn or trying to censor. Though that is definitely a factor considering the history of this industry and this space and these people.
It's also just, the law, right, requiring certain things. And as part of the problem is that, a lot of the laws that are, well-meaning in an attempt to prevent or hinder child porn, and also other crimes like, extortion, bribery, etc., blackmail, right? The laws are not, very sharp and delicate instruments. They are a blunt hammer and they cause a great deal of collateral damage, mostly to consensual adult sex workers, right?
Yep, who are already marginalized by society.
In place, not just because of companies, but also because of the laws that make those companies do things, right? As a result, it's like, we're going to try to stop these things. And as a result, the thing that we don't want to stop is also stopped.
Yep. So it's not just conservative agitation. There's a lot more going on here. There's a lot of self-interested, I don't want to deal with the sector that is extremely dangerous to deal with based on real concrete evidence.
It's also capitalism, right? Because in socialism, you would just have government sex workers.
Yep. Well, no, that gets into another dicey territory. I think a better way to look at it is in a truly socialist society that was constructed well, nobody would be doing sex work unless they wanted to.
Exactly.
That's a better way to put it. Government sex workers gets into a far more terrifying consequence of poorly written laws. And this is an argument that would need to be addressed by better laws. But imagine if sex work were completely legal and regulated. Arguably, under existing laws, someone could be forced to do it if they found a job in that sector and were currently collecting unemployment or risk losing their unemployment. That doesn't feel right, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Yep. This is why this is such a complicated space. So OnlyFans really shit the bed and fucked up here because they, as from everything I can tell, they could have taken steps to comply with these rules, and other sites like Pornhub have indeed complied with these steps and continue to take payments. So OnlyFans pivoted away from the demographic and the people that made them a success, and I kind of hope they go out of business because they really should have had those people's back. Their platform only got to the scale it got to because of those people. If you're gonna go into that industry, you'd better be there for the people you're working with.
At least the people who invested in it are gonna get burned.
Yep. Because I don't think OnlyFans is going to survive on people paying to get a hockey player to chat with them like an old call the hotline to talk to Corey Haim thing from the 80s.
Pretty sure the hotline just talked to a recording, right?
Yeah.
Sitting at the phone.
That I watched a YouTube video a while ago talking about like that whole preteen 900 number ecosystem from the 80s. What a weird world that was, the late 80s. But there's a ton more here that we do not have time or expertise to get into, but I'm going to link to a whole bunch of resources if you want to learn more about that space. And if you think to yourself, why don't I just make a website that does it right? Good luck. And if you think, why don't I just make a payment processor and a bank? I thought about that. We were talking about that a lot last week. In my professional opinion, it is possibly possible to do it without committing a felony. And I don't think I could...
Think of it like this, right? There's this big, there's this big field of lava, right? And yes, you can cross this lava field. There is clearly some stepping stones.
And there's some people out there. There's a few other people in metal boats, like making their way around the lava. They're out there, but there's not many.
Touching the lava means federal prison, right? And the other side is what we want, right? Which is, consensual adult sex workers get paid as they deserve to be, right? And consensual adult customers are able to pay them as they, should, right? And yet, to cross that, someone's got to cross the lava with the stepping stones without touching the lava. Someone else is doing it, not me. I'm not touching the lava.
So before we go to the next news, the listener brought up but also it's not just that. Even if you're looking at lava, you see boats flipping over and sinking in the lava constantly.
Big ones. The OnlyFans one is like on fire.
Yep. The Titanic has flipped over and is sinking on fire, and you're sitting there in your little dinghy thinking, I got to get me some of that.
right? I'm gonna be the one who makes it across. All these big guys didn't make it, but I'm the one who's gonna make it.
Yep. So possibly possible is what I would say. But the listener just asked, what about cryptocurrency? One, cryptocurrency needs to be banned for a bunch of other reasons. Like so many reasons I can't even get into. But two, the infrastructure bill that the U.S. government is about to pass includes, and this is a whole topic for another day, includes language that allows the federal government to regulate cryptocurrencies. And guess what those regulations will effectively do? They'll require the same kinds of things that MasterCard's requiring of porn sites, verifying the identities, verifying where the money came from and what it's being used for, all the things that all the other banks do, which literally remove all the, quote, good aspects, unquote, of cryptocurrency that libertarian shitbags like to talk about.
The failure of cryptocurrency to be used as a currency, even if you forget about its environmental damage, even if you forget about all the other nonsense and whatnot, right, is that it's not being used as a currency. No one will accept it for anything. You can't pay your rent with it. You can't buy groceries with it. So at some point, it needs to be converted to dollars. And at the point it can be converted to dollars, the government can get you. And in fact, they don't even need to get to that point. They've seized plenty of Bitcoins from plenty of people before they converted to dollars or after, right? When it was still in Bitcoin form. So it actually provides none, and almost nobody, right, is actually using any cryptocurrency in the purely distributed way that, you know, the one benefit of it is like, oh, you know, you can just anonymously transfer it between point A and point B. Yeah, that's if you, with your computer, with your wallet on your computer, directly interact with the blockchain from your computer with no one in between. 99.99% of cryptocurrency transactions, people are using some cloud service middleman to hold their wallet for them, and that's effectively no different than using Chase Bank. So that's how you're getting caught. And no one does it the real way. So they've just thrown out the one on paper, but not in reality benefit of cryptocurrency. It's just all bullshit. See our episode on cryptocurrency.
All right, let's put a marker there because that was a long news.
The other news should be tinier.
Yep. All right. All right. Let's see. So in some other big news, and this really escalated in the weeks while we were gone. So I was only barely following this.
I saw it escalating, but it's continued to escalate. So now we got to talk about it.
Yep. And the one thing I'll say before we get into this is that I am shocked this did not happen sooner. Like
I don't know why this took so long to happen.
I know. It's kind of like way back when I was a kid. I was like, why doesn't someone just make a virus that instead of fucking up your computer, just like steals money or spies on you or something? Like, why isn't someone making money with this? Why are they just making viruses that annoy people?
Eventually.
Yep. So effectively, there is a culture in Twitch, which, not to stray from the point and definitely not to blame the victims, but I think this culture is a broken and toxic result of how Twitch makes money in the first place. I think this...
See our ancient talk about, you know, the game makes the community.
Yep.
Right? In this case, the user interface, if you consider Twitch to be a game, right, all the rules of Twitch and the way the software works causes the community that is on there, in my understanding. So basically... The culture at stake here is that on Twitch, people will raid other channels. And by raid... which is usually a positive thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm done streaming. There's still a bunch of people watching me, right? I will raid, which, you know, even though it's a negative term, it sounds like a bad thing. It's actually, in Twitch terms, a good thing. I will send them to this other person that I like. And even if they keep watching me, they'll just be sent to this other person. They'll probably watch them for at least a little bit. And if they like them, maybe they'll stay there, right? But if not, then they'll go somewhere else on their own. No one can force them to watch this other channel. But it's giving that other person like a boost of attention. And it's usually a very good thing when a very popular streamer, right, will raid a very small channel.
Well, it's good. Like, Twitch users and content creators perceive it as being good, but I've seen a lot of evidence that those audiences don't actually stick around. They primarily are interested.
But for the most part, they don't stick around. But you just get 1 or 2 people can be a big, big deal for somebody.
It can, but a big part of raiding too is people will do raid campaigns to help someone they like get Twitch partner verified or whatever, like get their account above the line so they can monetize.
You'll often see a community of streamers that are all friends with each other, and they basically raid each other in like a circle, and that sort of merges their communities together. So that, like, you get the same viewers will follow all of them and watch whoever's online at a given time, and they'll stagger their stream schedules and make like a little thing. So it's a good functionality. The term raid isn't helpful, but
Yep. So, but the problem there is that someone's account will get just barely above the line. They get partner status. They feel like they made it. But those people mostly don't stick around. Now, weeks later, their account falls way below the line, and they're making basically no money, and they're not any better off.
I'm just saying, it's a...
There is a just due to the sheer number of streams, it's not a strictly zero-sum game, but an individual person can only watch so many minutes of Twitch per day. So there is a zero sum of how many eyeballs you can get on your Twitch stream. And for a lot of smaller creators, the raid ecosystem is a churn of the same people through a set of channels, and it doesn't make anything sustainable. But that's not the topic of the...
It is a cute, sometimes helpful feature that has uses.
But I have long-term concerns about it. But what started happening... And it appears that this is the work of a very small number of people who have written bots and built infrastructure to make this happen. They've written code. It appears even that the primary person or the small number of people involved with it are joining people's channels and even doing things like warning them they're about to run the racism bot, or asking for feedback on the racism bot, posting change logs on, hey, this is version 2.1 of the bot. I hope you enjoy it, before the Nazi stuff starts coming out. The bot will basically cause huge numbers of random automatically generated Twitter account or Twitch accounts to join your channel and just start spouting extremely racist nonsense, like the most vile content you can imagine.
And since Twitch puts moderation on the shoulders of the streamers and their moderators and not on themselves...
Yet also gives them almost no tools to actually moderate effectively.
It gives them tools, but it gives them very weak tools.
Oh, those tools are unusable garbage. I've actually been working on a spec of like what those tools would need to look like to be effective.
It does provide APIs to let people build better tools, which you usually would use, but even those tools are weak sauce. So, in the absence of strong enough tools, in the absence of Twitch not doing anything on their own, really, if this happens to you, the only recourse you really have as a streamer, right, is you can just turn your stream chat into sub-only mode, because, go ahead, subscribe to me with all those bots, $5 each, I'll take it, right? It's like... you don't really have a lot of things you can do about it other than that. Or you could put your chat into like slow mode, I guess, and then try to ban them one at a time. That's really a pain in the ass. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be playing the video game you're playing, right? You don't want to be clicking ban on hundreds and hundreds of chats in there. I guess you could turn off chat completely. I don't even know if that's an option on Twitch.
But again, the raid culture and the culture of Twitch is that no streamer wants to make their stream subs only. They want it to be open to anyone. So
usually streamers don't want to be sub only, because that's going to be a turnoff for, people who just come across your channel. They're not going to want to stay if they can't chat anything. They're just stuck watching you. I guess watching you isn't entertaining enough for some reason.
Yep.
They need to spam emojis to feel like they belong.
Do. Like, that is such a part of that culture. Like, I understand it, but I don't enjoy it. I'm obviously I'm old and I don't care anymore. But also, that culture is I don't want to blame the victims here, but the culture of how Twitch is used is making this problem worse rather than better. Yeah,
it's like the only time I ever chat on Twitch is if maybe...
Well, if it's a small stream and I'm like chatting with like a small number of people.
Stream and I'm legitimately talking to the person who's streaming, like I actually have something to say to them.
Well, like when we're doing the live stream on GeekNights, like I'm usually chatting in text in the live chat while we're doing the show. Scott can't even see that.
Right, but if we were super popular and our chat became a stream of emojis that was just
I would just turn it off at that point.
Was devoid of content. Well, we might as well just turn it off then. It's doing nothing.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, I don't know.
Yep. But
yeah, the Twitch chat itself is separate from this raid bot problem.
Yep,
So the raid bot problem has been going on, and it's mostly targeting, right?
minority creators, primarily
mostly,
black streamers. Yes.
Yes, but also LGBTQ people, right?
They're going after as many
it's not targeting white dudes.
No, they're going after
to say that
primarily and almost exclusively underrepresented and oppressed minorities.
Yeah, and posting, insult, slurs, right, in their bots, right? So the question is right? Twitch, right? It's like, what the hell are you doing about this? Why is it so easy to make a Twitch account that you can just make a zillion of them? Once someone does this, it should be really easy to identify. Shouldn't all of those accounts just be perma banned, right? Instantly.
And if someone is
Twitch,
and if someone is programmatically creating so many new accounts as they get banned, you should be able to figure out who's making those accounts.
Yeah. There's like, and Twitter, if you try to do API stuff, it's like you have an API key. They just turn your key off. Great. You can't make any more API commands. The end. Right, what else are you going to do?
Like, at this point, Twitch needs to take an extreme action, and instead they're making the slowest, most milquetoast actions possible. Like
Twitch has the resources of Amazon.
If I were the product manager for Twitch, like overall, like the head of product, the first thing I would do is literally ban, like I would halt for a couple weeks, all new account creation. Have a team dedicated to banning all the accounts that are doing this. Big forensic analysis. I would treat this as an existential crisis for the company.
Yeah.
And instead, Twitch is saying like, oh, well, we have tools. We're going to make more tools. Those tools do not work at all. We don't have time to get into all the examples. But
if you want to see just one example, right? There are many, many, many examples, but there's one example in a tweet I saw going around.
Oh, I know which one you're about to talk about. I think I have it linked up.
Someone was like, hey, what if I post the word, I want to post the word jogger, right? Obviously, they were referencing another word that has 2 G's in it, right? But they're like, hey, what if I want to post the word jogger in somebody's chat? It's like, well, okay, so they go in and they type in their block list the word jogger so that it cannot, so anyone who types it is automatically, that message is automatically blocked, right? Okay, so, but the problem is you can type any Unicode character you want into Twitch, and there's several characters in Unicode that look like J, several that look like O, several that look like G, several that look like E, and several that look like R, right? In Cyrillic, and several other alphabets that are available in the Unicode character space. So the actual number of ways you could type the word jogger that would be recognizable in English, right, to an English speaker is many, 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 many. And you can't type them all in, right? And Twitch doesn't automatically block all the variations. And to block all of them, you would have to do it with an automated, API calls right to your own Twitch account to add all the variations of just one word. And that would take you, even if you did all that and wrote the code to do it, or someone provided a tool to do it, with a limit on API calls that you can make to Twitch, would take you like many days just to add one word to your block list if you wanted to block all possible visual variations of it.
Now look at Twitch. How do you solve this? One, really simplistic machine learning models can handle that. Like
we already have,
or two, a direct
for decades. It's called a spam filter. We use it on email.
Yeah,
right. If somebody just apply a basic email spam filter technology to Twitch chats, right? If the kinds of Twitch chats that are getting blocked, consider that mark as spam. And if you see an account that is getting a lot of their chats marked as spam, automatically ban it from all.
So this gets back to that original conversation. Because the Twitch culture likes an extremely spammy chat and likes raids, the fact that the creators are unwilling to entertain solutions that end either of those things.
Right. It's like you could just make, for example, you could make all of Twitch, no chat. No chat. Why does chat have to be a thing? I'm just streaming. Why do I have to have a chat if I don't want to?
Let people run their own Discord or their own chat or something. Right. That's a real possibility.
People on Twitch would not like that. Okay, well, you could make all chats sub only by default. Well, that should actually encourage people to pay, because every chat is just always sub only all the time. There is no public chat. It's sub only chat. You want to talk to me? Pay $5 or use your Prime sub, right, for the month. It's like streamers don't like that either, because even though that might get more people to sub, it would really hurt their engagement with people who have not subbed yet. and getting them to sub, right? Because they can't chat yet.
But a lot of marginalized creators reach an audience of other marginalized people who couldn't afford even one Twitch sub. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they don't want. It's kind of like with the problems with Twitter, as I've always said. The only ways to stop the mass abuse that happens on Twitter in an open platform, there's really only two fundamental ways you can go. You either make some sort of cost, however small, to create an account. Well, I guess there's three ways. You have a verifiable identity required to create an account, or you accept.
Verifiable identities actually don't. They make it so that they make it easier to block someone, right? Because you have their.
Oh yeah, they don't prevent the behavior, but they make it easy.
There have been studies that show that, like, yeah, most of the people on Twitter saying awful things just have their real identities right there. They don't give a fuck.
Well, because if Twitter were willing to actually follow through and like go after those people with unavailable bans, but they're not. The third way to go is to do what we did with email. And I say this a lot because younger people do not appreciate this. The only reason email exists today and works at all is because as a society, we collectively agreed that 99.99999% of all emails are vile spam, and we're willing to let lots of legitimate emails get blocked rather than see a single spam.
Yeah, the email system is like no one can stop you from making an email server and just start sending emails to other email servers.
Guess what? If you do that,
there's absolutely nothing in the world that can stop you. But
guess what? No one will get your emails if you do that at all because no one will trust you.
Yep, no one will get your emails, right? You need to pass a rigorous sort of thing before any other email server will say, okay, I will allow you to email. But if Twitch was like, you must pass a very rigorous trial before we will allow a streamer to see your chats, no one would pass that trial. They want to get users, so they had to lower their barrier to entry, right? That fundamental conflict is what's belying all of our social networks, is that the networks want to lower the barrier to entry to get more users, but lowering the barrier to entry lets in shit.
Yep. And I think with Twitch in particular, there are no good ways to deal with this without harming some aspect of the Twitch community, culture, and interaction space that people enjoy.
Well, not harming by
alter it in a way that
drastically alter.
Alter it in a way that a huge percentage of Twitch users would dislike.
Yeah, probably.
But I think the avenue of least pain and harm would be for Twitch to provide actual effective moderation tools, which all platforms are avoiding. Like something so simple as building blockchains and shared block lists into the platform directly. Twitter,
not blockchain like Bitcoin, blockchain as just,
as in like say
everyone that I've blocked and everyone that you've blocked are now blocked on both of us. Automatically.
Because then marginalized creators could band together and share a gigantic block list that would automatically update and honestly solve a huge percentage of this problem. That Twitter...
But why do they even have to do that? The moderation should come from the platform itself.
No, the platform doesn't want to pay for that.
If someone's banned from all these channels, why aren't they just banned from all of Twitch forever?
Yep.
Right? If 100 people block some shithead on Twitter, why is their Twitter account still allowed to continue existing?
Yep. Why are Republican politicians who say literal lies about COVID still allowed to tweet? Like, it's the same problem.
The platform should be responsible for the the user shouldn't have to sit there, right, and moderate and do all this stuff, right? It's not their job. They're there to watch streams or to stream. They shouldn't have to be responsible for keeping racists and bots out of their chat. Why is that their job? Yep.
So Twitch bears 100% of the blame for allowing this to happen because there are simple things Twitch could have done or could still do that would not solve this, but would have drastically reduced this or even prevented the scale that is now occurring. This is only going to get worse, and I have no confidence that Twitch is going to do anything substantial to address it in the foreseeable future.
But anyway, on September 1st, all of these people who are not happy about Twitch not doing anything about this racist raid problem.
Yep.
Are going to basically do a one-day Twitch, I guess, boycott, right? No streaming, no watching Twitch.
Don't cross the picket line.
Right, so on September 1st, don't go to twitch.com, don't do any Twitch anything, don't even watch like a VOD, right? Don't watch a clip, don't do anything on September 1st. No Twitch streaming or watching whatsoever.
Yep. And anyway, to get to the rest of the show, it's time for Things of the Day. What do you got?
So you go to the hardware store, right? And such a simple thing. You see like a big old piece of plywood, right? Like a big flat piece of wood, right? And every time in my life I saw such a piece of wood, I thought to myself for a second, like, man, that obviously didn't come from a tree that was 8 feet wide.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there was a time where pieces of wood that big did in fact come from a tree that big.
Sure, that time is not now.
Nope.
And how did that piece of wood come to be? Right? Was it a particle board? I understand, right? You can just get like wood chips and like compress them together, with glue or something, right?
Yeah, but particle board sucks.
It sucks ass, but plywood doesn't suck, right? And it's just sort of like, hey, how the fuck did they make that, right? What was going on at the lumber mill that produced that 8 feet wide piece of wood? Finally, somehow I remembered to Google that. And on YouTube, I found a video. And the answer to the question of, hey, how did just some fucking logs that are about the size of like telephone poles end up as, ultra wide pieces of wood? The answer is about at the 3-minute mark, a very ingenious device that was so simple and so obvious.
Yeah.
Why did I not just imagine that on my own? But no, around the 3-minute mark, I saw the machine and I said, oh, that's how they fucking do it. God damn it. Why didn't I think of that? So
I find as I get older, I increasingly enjoy learning how very simple things that you don't think about are done.
Yeah, but also this video shows everything from literal tree with bark on it up to delivering to
the debarker is like the first part of the video.
Yeah, it shows
10 seconds in.
From tree all the way to piece of wood that's on its way to the hardware store already packaged. So it's pretty fascinating, all the other steps and things that go on in the lumber mill of, a modern lumber mill. So check it out.
So check this out. If this were something that was for sale, it's in the same category as that the Game & Watch that you got, the Nintendo one. If this was for sale, I would just buy it. Supposedly instructions for making one are coming soon from the creator, and I think I'm going to make one. It's this tiny little TV, and it is 3D printed to look exactly like the TV from The Simpsons, the original one.
Okay.
It's got 2 little dials on it.
Take a little LCD screen and stick it in there.
So, it has a tiny little computer in it, a 640 by 4, a Raspberry Pi Zero.
Raspberry Pi, yeah.
Yep. It has D card on it, and basically, it has one of the knob on the bottom with the volume slider. It has a speaker in it, and the knob on the top, if you turn it on, it'll start playing a random Simpsons episode from the first 11 seasons. And if you turn it off...
It could play anything, but they chose to put the first 11
Oh,
seasons.
yeah, but I'm saying they made it... The what I like about this device is this is the exact kind of neat social currency / desk toy that I love. It's like an advanced form of that Game & Watch. Just flick the little switch, and a tiny TV is just playing a random episode from the good run of The Simpsons. Turn it off, it stops.
Nothing stops you from putting an NES emulator in there.
No.
Anything else that,
No, but I like the idea that it just plays The Simpsons. And I really love the fact that when this person made it, they literally just compressed 11 seasons of The Simpsons and just stuck them on there, and that's the only thing that they made it do.
You don't have to compress them. You could just put full-on, MP4, H.264 videos in 1080p.
Yep. Well, they fit 11, so 11 seasons times the number of episodes a season. Of roughly 640 by 480 video, though it's probably less than that in practice.
Could fit the entire run of The Simpsons, just everything on a micro SD card.
Oh, probably. But I feel like
since it's an art piece, you probably only want the 4x3, episodes. You don't want the 16x9 ones.
And also because it's an art piece, you probably only want the first 11 seasons. Let's be clear about that. I just think this
is also probably not 16x9s.
You know what I would say? I think it's neat.
Yeah, that's neat. Good idea.
In the meta moment, we will not be at PAX West 2021, in case you were wondering. I feel like we have to announce that a few times because most of the people who see us at cons don't bother going to our website and seem to watch our YouTube channel more than listen to the podcast itself. But we will not be there. It is too soon for me to cram myself into a building with tens of thousands of nerds indoors. So we're not going to be. This is the first PAX in the U.S. we've skipped since our first PAX in 2008. It's weird that there will be a PAX that I am not at. I even went to the first 2 PAX Australias.
That's
So
right, because even if I went and and even if I was willing to take the risk of getting a horrible disease, which I'm not, or giving it to someone else, which I'm not, it feels like because of the horrible disease, the PAX itself will be greatly diminished and not worth paying the money to fly across the entire country to go to. So if I lived in Seattle, there might be some amount of consideration. Probably still wouldn't go, but chances of going would be higher.
Yep, so we will not be there. Our panel from the last PAX East online, Camp PAX Atari Game Design, is just on YouTube. You can just watch it. Slides, everything, it's all there. We're still reading The Tale of Genji. Powering through it.
Read a bunch at the beach, yeah.
I think by the end of September we can do this show. October at the latest.
You said August last year.
Yeah, well then.
The end of August is in a week.
Yep. Well, I'll be past the halfway point in the next week at the rate I'm going.
All right, well, we'll see.
But some notes, because I've said the same thing about the book a few times along the way. So to be a little more specific, there were more ghost murders than I expected in The Tale of Genji. Ghosts came up.
There's also, more Hamlet-style ghosts coming to talk.
Yep. Ghosts played more of a factor than I expected from The Tale of Genji, and I'm here for that. I also did not expect on a modern reading, like, as you get further into the book and you think back to who's sick when and what they complain about being sick with, it's clear that half the characters in this fucking book literally have malaria. Like specifically malaria.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are people who have malaria, but there's also just because it's such an old time before modern medicine, people were sick a lot. So it's true to, it's true to life in that sense.
All right. Get a main bit. Put a little marker here. So we'll get right into it. We're going to talk about the Apple thing that has, honestly, interestingly, I have a very mixed and ambivalent opinion on this, but the people in technology spaces that I know professionally or that I follow
drastically outraged.
Yep. Like I know these are some people I know and have talked to about this. And they're also people I just follow because I respect, like Lawrence Lessig. I respect, like there's people I respect.
Yeah.
All of them are pretty much 50-50 on this issue. Half of them are, demanding that Apple not do this, extremely afraid of the negative consequences. And the other half of them are basically arguing it's not really that much different from what everyone else is doing, and we don't really care that much. So this is a authority issue.
I'm pretty much seeing only outrage from everyone except me.
I've seen a number of privacy advocates argue that it's not a big deal, mostly citing the fact that pretty much every other platform already does this.
So let's explain what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? So first of all, what Apple is doing is they're doing 3 things, right? And I'm going to do them in a different, they explain them in this page on their website, apple.com/child-safety. And I'll talk about the 2 not so exciting ones first, and then the big deal one last, even though on the website, the big deal one's in the middle. So the first one is Apple calls it communication safety in messages. And basically what it is if you are a child and you have an iPhone that's hooked up to your parents' iPhone with the parental protections and everything, in which case your parents can already just unlock your phone and see everything is going on in there anyway.
Yep.
Right? Your entire Apple stuff is beholden to your parents if that is the case. So it's not really a change from that. But what the system they have added does is it allows the parents to, enable a thing where it'll be enabled by default, and I guess you could disable it if you really want to, but basically use machine learning to see if the child has received or sent a photo that very likely has nakedness in it, right? And if a child is getting it, is either a child looking at porn they shouldn't be, or a child sending child porn of themselves, usually, right?
Yep.
Which shouldn't be. And all it does is it will blur it to, make it so the child doesn't see it immediately. So someone sends a dick pic to your kid, they don't just immediately see the dick.
Or your kid sends a dick pic to someone they know.
They'll get a blurry image and like a warning, like, are you sure you want to see this? Which I think is a feature they should just enable for everybody. Like, hey, someone sent you a photo that's probably a dick. Are you sure you want to see it? Yes, no.
Yep.
Why is that for kids only? That should just be for everybody. If they want to enable that, that should be enabled by default. Regardless, it'll tell the parent, like, hey, your kid, got a message that might be naked, letting you know, right? And I don't really see the problem. I don't see this as a problem. It's just a helpful thing that's not any different because parents already effectively have complete control of their children's phones that they're paying, that the adults are paying for.
Yep.
So
the one avenue I see, the chatter I saw on that was primarily around young, under 18, still under their parents' control children who have conservative religious parents who don't approve of their sexuality or lifestyle. And this was one of the few truly encrypted avenues they would have to communicate with people.
Well, as I said, that I completely agree with what you just said. But the parents already had complete control of the phones because they're their kid's phone. It's not the parent, right? It's the parent's phone that the kid is using with the parental controls. The parents could already just, I assume, just unlock their kid's phone and see whatever.
Well, I think in that case, we need more of the old awareness campaigns that used to happen in the 90s among nerds around how to do encryption when you don't trust the devices and how to do encryption.
Yes.
That is difficult and that will require some work. Like you could almost make a nonprofit around teaching kids, especially marginalized kids, how to use encryption that is platform agnostic. So I think there are effective ways around that for kids who need it.
Right. But also, Apple has informed everyone of this. This isn't a secret. So I don't imagine, if a kid is in that situation and afraid of their parents finding out their sexuality because their parents are pieces of shit, you're just not going to be sending any of that stuff on your iMessage now. You'll find another way to send it if you're going to send it at all. Because you know about this. Apple told you that it's there. It's not like, surprise, we told your parents that you're gay, right? It's, so it could cause a problem for somebody, I guess, who was unaware or something, but I'm not too worried about that, given that everyone knows, they just announced it to the world. All right, the second thing, really not a big deal at all, barely even worth mentioning, is that if you go to Siri or search on your phone, if you try to search for CSAM, which I guess is the new term for, instead of saying child porn, you're supposed to say CSAM.
Well, because so it's the child sexual abuse material. It usually refers to databases governments maintain. There's a whole thing on this, but basically law enforcement agencies maintain databases of all the child porn that's ever been uncovered. Partly to help study it, to identify victims, to find victims who have not been helped yet, like trafficked kids, and also to be able to identify it when someone else is found to be distributing it. There's a lot of reasons why these databases exist.
Sure. But child sexual abuse material is just like the phrase that, they're using instead of saying child porn.
So there are databases that
I guess they like that term better because it's more specific, right?
Yep. But it's also more generic in that it covers all the different ways, like all the kinds of material that could be abusive in this manner.
Sure. But anyway, if you try to search for child sexual abuse material on your iPhone or ask Siri about it, right, it is now going to give you better help in those regards. So that's, I guess, only positive, right?
Yep.
So the big thing that Apple's doing, right, is the CSAM detection. So first of all, let's talk about how it works. The way it works is this. You have some photos on your phone. And not only do you have photos on your phone, you have enabled iCloud photo. You're not, right? So that's probably by default on most iPhones, but you could disable it if you wanted to. But you have iCloud photo enabled. What they're going to do is on your phone, it's going to take hashes of all your photos. It's not going to share your photos with Apple. No one will see the picture of your birthday cake, right? They're just going to see a number, and there'll be no mathematical way to figure out what fucking photo that number came from. Just like no way. It's mathematically impossible. But they have a database of child porn, right? Because the government has it. And what they'll do is they'll see, did any of the numbers on any of your photos match any of this CSAM, right? And that's not, try not to say child porn now because they told me not to, right? We have these numbers from photos of CSAM, and we have the numbers from your photos. If there's any matches, it is mathematically extremely likely that you have that shit on your phone. It would be almost impossible for you to have a photo. Not absolutely impossible, but almost impossible You'd have a photo on your phone and have the hash produced from that photo match one of the hashes in that database, right? And even if there is some kind of match, right, they've set up this whole system to where, like, yeah, Apple's computers are doing this part, someone else's computers are doing this part, humans are looking at this part, right? For it to actually reach the point at which you're in trouble because of this, it would have to be like, you know, almost guaranteed that, like, yeah, you got that shit on your phone. What's wrong with you? Right. So I'm really confident there aren't going to be false positives. So what are people worried about? Well, people are worried not at this technology here itself, right? Of what's actually happening. They are worried about the slippery slope, right? Because once this system is in place, for example, just to make something up, Apple could take an image of, I don't know,
a leaked Apple product design, let's say.
Sure, right? An iPhone 13. And then they could be like, well, now, you know, we add the hash, we add that number of this photo of the iPhone 15 to our database. And if anyone out there has a photo of an iPhone 15 on their iPhone, well, we know that they're a leaker, right? They could add, you know, they could apply this to things besides photos, right? Because it's happening locally on your phone where decrypted things could be. So your decrypted iMessages, right? Apple doesn't see your iMessages when they're in transit, but if they could look at your iMessages and they could be like, yeah, what's the hash of the message that says, you know, I hate the president, right? If anyone has a text message that says, I hate the president, right? They could detect that specifically, right?
Yep.
Without, you know, because they don't have the messages, they're not seeing your messages, but they have hash representations of all your messages. So they can sort, what they can do is they can just take messages and search for them specifically.
Yep. Take a new message, generate the hash for that message, and see if anyone sent that message.
Yeah, did anyone say this? Oh, we caught you, right?
So this actually gets a little bit worse in the U.S. in particular, and I've seen a few security researchers make this point about the U.S. federal government and gag orders, national security letters. The U.S. government could, in theory, and has done this in the past with other platforms and technologies. Say I have a technology platform with end-to-end encryption, and I do not have a mechanism to decrypt that information, like built in. The government cannot force me to build new technology. Like, that is not something they can do with an NSA letter or an NS letter. They can't be like, you are hereby ordered to build this technology for us. Like that.
They would have to make a government contract to do that.
But
and you have to agree to do it.
But if it is known now that Apple has this specific capability, it is eminently plausible the U.S. federal government could issue a national security letter with a gag order to Apple saying, add these hashes to your list and inform us if anything hits. We will not tell you what the hashes are for, and you, under penalty of law, cannot inform anyone that you have added these hashes.
Right. They could fight it in court, but
they could fight that in a special secret court.
Yes.
And guess what?
There probably are many such fights happening in secret courts all the time that we don't know anything about.
And guess what? You know why you don't find out about those? Nobody ever wins those cases.
Because you wouldn't find out even if they did win because it happened in secret court.
Yep. But the specific danger is that by having the capability, they've opened themselves up to the government issuing a directive like that in a way that if they don't have the capability, the government can't force them to build it. That seems to be the primary concern among the people I see who are the maddest about this.
Sure.
And it's a fair point.
That is a true concern, yes. But yeah, that is pretty much like the only concern, right? It's like if Apple, because it's really a slippery slope thing, right? It's like you're building this system, but all of the negatives that everyone comes up with, whether they're plausible ones, like the one you just said, right, or any others, they're all ifs. It's like every single negative that anyone comes up with.
That's true, but this
negative could happen.
There's one important danger of the other thing I brought up, though, in that there's no way to ever know if the if happens.
There is no way to know. That is true.
A lot of these other ifs, we could find out if they happen. That's the one if. There's literally no way to know. Thus,
there's also no evidence that the thing did happen, but again, there would.
But there is evidence that the thing has happened on every other platform.
Yeah, that's true.
Apple is unique in that it did not have capabilities like this.
Apple does, right? And that is a good point in Apple's favor, right? Apple has always said, hey, look, we're not here. We're the most privacy conscious of all your options, right? We're here to sell you the product for a large amount of money. You aren't the product, right? The product, like you are with all those people who give you stuff for free, like Google, right? It's like everyone else is already doing this, right? Some of them might be telling you they do it. Some of them might not be telling you they do it. Some of them might be doing it way worse than Apple.
Well, like Google does it. We know Google does it. They publish information about statistics of like things, how many things they take down and how many violations. Looks like Google in 2020, Google disabled almost 100,000 accounts because CSAM material was identified.
Mm-hmm. So
210,000 URLs were de-indexed because they included CSAM material. I think the difference is, and again, I have not audited the specifics of how every different company implements this stuff. The difference is that all these other platforms are inspecting unencrypted content that they have access to, is that a store or that they have encrypted on behalf of a user. This is the first time an end-to-end encrypted thing itself is inspecting personal content, not shared content, and not content.
I don't think the iCloud photos are truly end-to-end encrypted the way iMessage or and such is.
I'm not actually 100% sure myself because I don't have an Apple.
I'm pretty sure it's just, I don't think it's fully end-to-end encrypted. There's a point at which Apple can see your photos.
So there's a fascinating article on the Washington Post that it was published today. It was published a couple days ago. I just saw it today. But it's some researchers who built a very similar system to do almost the exact same thing, and effectively how they canceled it because they decided it was too dangerous based on what they discovered building such a platform. Too easily abused. I'm going to link to the article.
Easily abused, yes.
Yep. Because, like I said, I have a complex and somewhat ambivalent opinion on this, in that on one hand, I would argue that if you truly, truly care about powerful end-to-end encryption where you need to protect yourself from state-sponsored actors, which includes the U.S. government, because the U.S. government is the primary entity that could issue a security letter and leverage this technology for malfeasance, you need to be doing what we talked about at the beginning of the show and have actual end-to-end encryption that is platform agnostic, that you yourself are managing using your own technology.
Right. You should be using your own platform.
PG,
your own hardware, your own software. If you're using anything, right, run by some other provider at all, even if they're promising or verifying, giving you some sort of encryption like iMessage is, it's like you can't trust that. Right? If you really need the privacy, run your own Linux server in your house, make your own phone. Right, with
get a random number generator, get some entropy from your local environment.
Yeah, it's like use Wi-Fi only. You can't be going over Verizon, T-Mobile, or anything like that. Right? It's like you can't. It's just it's just how it is. As soon as you use someone else's service, that's it. You gave them everything. The end. So that's one thing. The second thing is Apple's getting a ton of flack for this, which is partially because they've decided to tell everyone not only that they're doing it, but all the details of how they're doing it. And because of their privacy conscious, message they've had for so long, it's a bigger contradiction.
I think the latter
the
latter's a bigger key because
if you look at what they're doing, they're sticking to their privacy conscious, ideas, and they're doing it in a better, more privacy sensitive way than anyone else is doing it.
They are.
Right?
Except for, honestly, the only concern I have is the avenue where the government could force them secretly to leverage this technology.
But already it's been that way for Google, Dropbox, Microsoft, Facebook. That's already been that way for all of them who already have had these systems up in a far worse implementation.
But what it means for me as just like a person using technology is that this platform is now the same as all of those platforms. It is not different or special.
It is not different. It is still better. It is not, it is still not private. But it is better than the other options.
What's also interesting is that Apple,
the gap between them has decreased.
Apple has been doing this for iCloud Mail since 2019.
Yep.
No one cared because all the platforms that do this primarily are doing it on communication and like storage, but like storage that's shared or unencrypted. I guess that like this case is a slightly different twist because of Apple's privacy message, as you described. That message caused the dissonance.
No, Apple has also simply just told everyone, hey, if you just disable iCloud Photo, which is a single button press, and just keep your photos on your phone only, this won't happen to you. So they're giving you a way around it. They just told you how to undo it.
I would, well, two things. I would personally, like I might switch to Apple when the next iPhones come out. If the era of the small phone might have just died, I might just be fucked. So
we'll find out.
We're gonna find out. I was salivating over that supposedly leaked iPod or iPhone Nano that they never made.
Yeah, never made back in the days of like in 2010.
I mean, my iPod Nano is still one of the best pieces of technology I ever owned in my life.
Yeah, pretty much.
If they made an iPhone Nano, like I would pay thousands of dollars for an iPhone Nano.
I would have bought if they had made it in 2011. I would have bought it and stuck with it forever.
If they made one today, I would pay laptop prices for an iPhone Nano.
I was specifically said I wanted an iPhone Nano in 2010, 2011. They never made it, so.
But and if my threat, because remember, the avenue that I personally have the most concern about is the national security letter thing. If the threat you are trying to protect yourself against is the U.S. government, you've got to use platform agnostic encryption anyway. Therefore, I'm not fussed about this, and this will not factor into my decision to use or not use Apple products.
Yeah. As a more general point, right, is that almost, as I said, almost all the concerns, right, are slippery slope concerns, right? They're saying, you know, because the system as it is, if we take Apple's word for it and we assume that there is or have not been any national security letters adding other things to this, right? If we just look at what it is and assume that we will not go over the slope, in good faith, right? We're not going down the slope. This is only a positive thing. This is going to stop shit tons of CSAM. It's going to catch all sorts of child predators. This is a huge benefit. No one's focusing on that at all, right? It's like, if you don't go down the slippery slope, this is great. This is in fact terrific.
However, the same argument is made by people who say we should abolish end-to-end encryption absolutely and require backdoors to exist for everything.
There's a huge difference between that and this. And the huge difference is that if you abolish end-to-end encryption, right, you are actually creating a security problem, right?
Yep, but you'd catch all the CSAM.
But you would also cause lots and lots of collateral damage that wouldn't be a slippery slope. It would be a reality, right? Of where, if there's no end-to-end encryption, then that means I can't make a bank transaction safely, right? It's like it's like already a built-in consequence. Here, it's like they don't have to add more hashes.
So I did see one other concern.
Right? It's not a guaranteed thing that any collateral damage will happen.
I found a story about a crypto audit project, and a number of researchers pointed out that they were testing the neural hash mechanism that Apple's using, and they found lots of collisions very quickly.
Well, what they were doing was intentionally. I looked at some of that.
Yep, they were definitely. There's a lot of caveats on. They were somewhat synthetic examples.
Well, not only that, I saw someone who's like, hey, all of these images will make a hash collision. 100% of those images were clearly, like, I didn't actually click through to the site because I had guessed what they were doing, but I saw a thumbnail of the site. They had taken CSAM imagery and just modified it to, like, make it blurry or whatever. And it's like, glad I didn't click through to your website.
But also, those are the collisions that would be a feature of the platform.
Exactly. The point, just to make the more general point, right, is that not only with this, but with a lot of things technologically in the world, there are slippery slopes that, like, if you build, and I think we get this a lot because we've seen so many Twilight Zone episodes.
Also because we've seen slippery slopes just ramp down to the bottom instantly in the real world so many times.
We've seen slippery slopes in reality. Nuclear power to nuclear bomb, right?
Yep.
That's real. That's not some made up thing, right?
Well, no, actually, that's not true because we went from nuclear bomb to nuclear power.
I guess technically.
We didn't have nuclear power generation until long after we had nuclear bombs. In fact, a simple nuclear bomb is arguably easier to make than a effective nuclear reactor. Anyway, I digress.
There have been real slippery slopes that we have gone down in real life, right? And we've just read, so many UN play gods sci-fis, right? That, people are so worried about slippery slopes. But if we can, there are many situations such as this where we can build the technology, and as long as we don't go down the slippery slope, we can gain a huge benefit, right? The negatives are further down the slope. At the top of the slope, if we just hold and keep the snowball way at the top of the hill and don't go down the hill, there's huge benefits to be gained. If we're so afraid of the bottom of the hill that we stay at the very tippy top and don't take the only one step down and stop there after one step, we're actually sort of, that's also a negative in that you can consider the positives that we would get one step down. In this case, lots and lots of CSAM dissemination, just getting off scotch-free, not getting caught, right? All this child abuse just running rampant, right? Is like, that's also a negative, right? So we need to figure out a way that we can recognize the true and real dangers of going down the slope more than one step, because they are super real, right? Recognize the damage of not going down the slope at all, and find a way to go down the slope one step only, fucking stay there, right? Make our society better, right? And not arguing against step one, by pointing at step two. As soon as someone goes to step two, yell at them all you want. Like,
well, here's the thing.
One.
But while I agree with you in principle, in this case, we literally cannot know if step two ever happened because of the way U.S. law works. The way to solve this problem is to change
specific case, right? It's like,
oh yeah, but that specific case is the primary concern of almost everyone I see who is credible in this space.
I can't imagine that becoming a huge thing, right? Have people been getting caught? If that case is true, right? That the government is sending hashes to tell them to insert into the database to catch people doing other things besides legitimate CSAM, then how come other people on the other platforms where these systems have been in place for a long time, we should have been seeing people who have been getting busted for other non-CSAM related crimes?
You wouldn't, because anything like that's done under a gag order, you're never going to find out.
If a human being goes to is arrested, right? It's like,
no, you would not know in the general public. That's sealed evidence in most cases. That's never revealed to the public.
Aren't people being disappeared, right, or whatever?
I mean, how would you know?
Have you seen anyone getting disappeared?
All I know is stats I saw on leaks attempting to show how many national security letters and gag orders get sent, and it's a lot, just generally across all technology. But I'm saying the solution to this is to change the structure. The U.S. government should be much more limited in where and how gag orders are used, and we need a lot more oversight over that whole process. That's the actual fundamental problem that's making this an issue.
Right, but the fact that we even know the system exists, right, that Apple told us about it, is a reason to have some measure of good faith in the system. They could have just done this and never told anyone a fucking thing.
Oh, yeah. Right? That's why I'm not personally that fussed about it.
Implemented this whole system and never told anyone it existed. We would never even know about it. You wouldn't know this was happening, and you would just feel right as rain. The fact that Apple told us this existed and how it works when they didn't have to, right? They didn't have to tell us, is a reason to have good faith in the system, unless this is like the sort of, double think strategy of the government, right? That exists, and right? That's, right? Is a reason to believe that, it's gonna, right? Until they say, it's also a reason to believe that if things went to step two, that someone would say something, not necessarily someone officially saying something, but some sort of whistleblower.
I just go much more simple. If this figures into your threat profiles enough to where you have a concern about using an Apple product because of this specifically, you are already the kind of person who needs to be using platform agnostic encryption.
Right. And yeah, I'm not gonna get mad about this the way other people are getting mad about it until something actually happens, right? I'm seeing this currently as a net positive of catching lots.
I mean, when I need to communicate in a way that I know is verifiably secure, I use platform agnostic end-to-end encrypted services.
I mean, you could just seriously, if you don't want to set up fancy encryption, if you just make a fucking Linux computer and 2 people SSH to it,
Yeah.
and you edit a text file, it's like the government ain't gonna find it, even if the text file is unencrypted.
Well, so there was a thing, a bunch of government people who were being investigated for corruption and other things got caught with this. A common way for a long time people would communicate anonymously and avoid government regulation and oversight and even avoid cops is someone would log into a random email account, write an email, and not send it. Just leave it as a draft. Someone else logs into that same email account, looks in the draft, reads the draft, edits it. But they never actually send the email anywhere.
Smart.
There's a lot of, well, that it's not steganography, but that's a whole class of security through obscurity communication mechanisms that are way out of scope for the show. And I think we talked about it in like 2007 on GeekNights. Anyway, I'm hungry, and I think this was a plenty long show. You see what happens when we skip a couple weeks of shows? It's all bottled up.
Yep.
So see you on Wednesday when, what will we do the show on?
I watched all 4 Ava movies.
Oh, I haven't watched them yet, but
I watched Beastars season 2.
Oh, I finished Beastars season 2.
Okay.
I was, all I will say is I was surprised by exactly one thing, and that thing was very surprising, and it involved the number 4.
Yeah.
I didn't think that, I didn't think that was literally going to happen.
Okay.
And then it just literally happened, and the show just moved on. Like, yep, that happened. That surprised me a little bit.
Okay.
We could always review Beastars season 2 if we got nothing else. Or I guess there's going to be a 3rd season coming to like wrap everything up.
Yeah, Ava movies would be better. Beastars season 2 was a little.
I don't think I'm going to watch all the Ava movies by Wednesday because I'm playing Blade.
4 of them.
Yeah, and I'm playing Blades in the Dark tomorrow. It's 7:30 p.m. on a Monday.
Watch them all in 2 days.
Yeah, so let's see. Tomorrow I'm going to work all day.
Do the next day.
I'm working all day, and then I'm playing Blades in the Dark literally all night.
You don't realize you've already seen the first one. You could just watch the last 1 minute of the first one.
Oh yeah, I figure.
Oh wait, there's another scene. There's a scene in the middle of the first one that's less than like 30 seconds long, and the end of the first one, like literally the last less than minute.
Oh, but shit like that matters. Like the Ava re-release.
You can just watch those 2 scenes, and otherwise,
I'm still not gonna. I'm not gonna have watched 4-ish movies by Wednesday when we got to do a show because remember my entire tomorrow is taken up in the evening playing Blades in the Dark until like midnight.
If you they're Ava, so if you start watching them.
Oh yeah, I know the danger.
You might watch them all today.
Yeah, the reason, Ava, the Cowboy Bebop DVDs, these things are under lock and key for a reason. You can't see a screen playing certain things or you're going to be trapped for Star Wars cannot be displayed on any screen.
The first movie is 99.99% a compilation of the first 6 episodes of the TV series, but starting with the second movie, it's almost nothing like.
In fact,
right?
that
while being almost nothing like it, it's all basically the same thing also.
You know what the problem is? I realized that I can't make that Simpsons TV because it would turn into the Day Killers. At RIT, I'll leave you all with this. We had a bunch of VHS tapes from my family where we would do ad blocking by someone would record shows and then we'd all watch the shows without the ads later. So that was a chore, like taking out the garbage. So I had these VHS tapes that were in like the lowest quality mode, so like 8 hours of tape, and it was just back-to-back Simpsons episodes with no openers, closers, or commercials. And if anyone put that in the VCR, we were just trapped. I can't get that little TV. You'll see me sitting at my desk with 2 4K monitors, and I'll be staring at a tiny little screen playing like episode 36 of The Simpsons in 320 by 200. All right. That was a pretty fine show, I think.